at some point, the pace we've been keeping starts to feel a little too much. And that's not because we we're losing steam, but really because we've been going nonstop for decades. If you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, we've been leading, we've been showing up, we've been handling it all. And now a lot of us are quietly asking, well, how long can I keep this up? Now you're still driven, you care deeply, but there's also this pull for more peace, more space. You know what I'm talking about. You want to stay in the mix, but there's this pull. So today we're going to talk about what life work balance really means now for women like us who aren't trying to quit, but are trying to do it differently. And we've been doing it all for years. We've been handling our business, supporting others, building a career, a life with others, and a legacy. But again, it might be starting to wear on us, on you, in ways it didn't before. And again, not because you're not capable, you are, you always have been. It's just you're thinking more about how you want to spend your time, what's really worth your energy, and how to have success in this phase of life without sacrificing yourself. So that's what the conversation is about today. And I don't want to be talking about that kind of balance you read about in, magazines and glossy kind of magazines, but the kind that actually works while you're still leading and growing and caring for others. We also want more peace and space, and that's what I mean for you. So here's what we'll get in today. I want to talk about why balance feels harder to reach now, though you're more experienced than ever. What signs to watch out for when something's out of sync? And what's the one small shift you can make today to start feeling more steady, more clear, more control of your day? So that's what's on the agenda for today. So I've got a presentation for you. So let's talk about this idea of balance, especially for women like us who have spent years leading, building, developing, and delivering and showing up strong. The version we were handed says you're supposed to keep everything going at once, flawlessly. Your career, caregiving, family, relationships, service, legacy, all of the things, all of it. But let's be honest, that kind of balance doesn't feel real anymore. It feels exhausting. And what I've seen in my own life and in the lives of the women I work with is that balance these days can't mean doing everything well all the time. It just can't. Instead, it comes down to being clear on what really matters right now and giving yourself permission to focus on that. Now, for me, that meant recognizing I was saying yes a lot of times out of habit, not on purpose. And there really was this season, this time in my life when I accepted every speaking engagement there was. Anytime I was asked to do something, I'd be saying yes. every board invitation, and I was getting them left and right. And every time the community asked me to do something, I couldn't say no because I thought that's what leadership and my impact in my career required. But you know what it actually did? It left me overextended, undernourished, busy, but disconnected from my real priorities, and oftentimes exhausted. I had my own SEO, stressed out, exhausted, and overwhelmed. And I would um, start asking myself, well, where can I show up with energy and intention, not just where I'm needed? And you know, once I did that, everything shifted. That's when balance became less about juggling and more about choosing. So now, why do we as high achieving women struggle with balance the most? Why is that? Well, um, I want to be clear on something. This isn't a struggle for us because we're disorganized or don't know how to manage time. Most high achieving women I know could run circles around a crisis and still have a report ready by tomorrow morning. But that's not the issue we're talking about here. What makes balance hard at this midlife stage in work is that we're holding more than just the work. Yes, we're running a business or departments, but we're also caring for aging parents. We're mentoring others. We're processing grief or change. We're going through life transitions. And yes, we're doing all of those things and still pushing ourselves to do it with excellence. Yeah, that's the quiet pressure we carry to keep proving a lot of times that we still got it, even when no one's asking, even when we tired. It's not just the task, it's the weight of the roles we've taken on over time. You hear this? We've taken on the roles of caregiver, leader, fixer. And as we get older, as we move from our 20s, 30s, even early 40s, we accumulate these roles. You know, when you was in your 20, you weren't taking care of aging parents, most likely. You may not have had a family. You certainly probably wasn't you weren't an empty nester where you had grown children and they was out the house. You probably hadn't reached the pinnacle of your career, so you weren't a leader. But as you went into your 40s, 50s, 60s, all of these new roles came into your life. And so what's happening is that you're taking on all these new roles, and now you're in the season where something inside of us is saying, I want to do this differently. Now, I don't think that's a crisis. I think that's clarity knocking on your door. The struggle comes when we try to ignore that voice and keep running the old playbook. That's what the crisis is, I believe. But here's what I've learned, that this season of life that we're in doesn't require you to prove anything. You've already made it in so many ways. This season of life requires you to prioritize what feels aligned, even if it means doing less. And that's not easy for women who've spent a lifetime doing everything, being the fixer and being the glue. So let's take a moment to look at what I call the three lanes of real balance. So when I work with women on this question of balance, I don't start with their calendar. I start with clarity. We got to get clear on what's happening. And one way that I help bring that clarity is by asking them to think about their life in three lanes: leadership, life, and legacy. I invite you to do the same. Most of the times when things feel off, it's not because you're doing too much. It's because everything's running in the same lane, crowding each other out. So let's break down and look at these lanes. And well, what are you talking about, Dr. Geneva? Well, leadership is that lane where you work. We've got your mission. This is your business, your job, your career, your projects, your influence. Okay. So that's the job. Or it's that company that you're running or thinking about starting. And it's the place where you drive results, you lead teams, other people, or you serve clients. The life lane is where your personal well-being lives. Your health, your family, your friendships, your downtime. This is the lane we tend to put last. Even though this lane is what holds everything else together, frankly. Okay. And then that legacy lane, that asks, what am I building for the future? What am I leaving behind uh, in terms of people, impact, meaning? And as we are in midlife, 55, 60, 65, this question of legacy, what am I leaving? Um, what's the impact? What's my life all about? What's my purpose? What's my assignment? Becomes even more important. Okay. So now those are the three lanes, but here's the important piece that I wanted to say to you, the key. You don't have to be in all three lanes at the same time with equal energy. Okay. What you need is the awareness to shift lanes when one needs more attention, and to do that without guilt. Okay. So some seasons, you might be leadership heavy. There might be some things going on in your business or at the job, or, things you're thinking about, a major career shift. And that lane, that's a heavy one. You won't travel in there. And you may need to pull back from the other lanes. And other times, you may need to pull back from that leadership lane and lean more into life or legacy. But you see, what throws us um, off balance isn't the shift to do it. This is what I found. I find women will nod and they'll tell me, well, I understand that. I got that. But see, what throws you off balance isn't the knowledge or the understanding about these three lanes and the shift, perhaps. It's really pretending that you don't need to make a shift. So in other words, that well, I got it, Dr. Geneva. These are 3 lanes, and I'm on them. But what you don't spend the time or the intention is realizing that you need to make a shift. Okay. You need to get out of one lane and go into the other. So the real question becomes walk with me now. Okay. Walk with me where we're going. The real question becomes, what lane are you in right now? And are you giving yourself permission to make shifts, to be there fully, whatever it is? So you may be asking, well, how do I know? What are the signs that I'm out of balance? One of the things about high achieving women, um, we don't realize that we're off balance until something breaks. And oftentimes that's called burnout. Okay. And the thing that's interesting is oftentimes it's really dramatic. It's quiet, creeps in slowly. And because we're so used to functioning under pressure, we normalize it. So here are some of the signs I see in my clients and conversations, and yes, see in myself. You feel resentful, but you can't name why. You've got the work handled, but some joy is missing. You're showing up, but you're tired in a way that rest just doesn't fix. Or maybe this one sounds familiar. You finally get a free moment, and instead of relaxing, you fill it up with more tasks because slowing down feels uncomfortable. That's not just overworking. What it really is being out of alignment. If any of these signs are resonating with you and you see yourself in them, tell me about them in the chat. Sometimes the signal is emotional. Okay. Other times it's physical. Your body's tired, your sleep is off, or you're powering through things that used to excite you, but you're just trying to get through it. One of the most telling signs for us, particularly at this stage, is that you've lost your connection to your why. The work still matters, but it doesn't light you up the way it used to. You're disconnected from your purpose. You've become confused about your assignment. So, if any of that sounds familiar to you, let me just tell you this, okay? You're not broken. You're just running on outdated settings and with an old playbook. Dr. Geneva, what kind of old playbook you talking to? I'm talking about the settings in the playbook that worked for you in your 30s and 40s, but they don't serve you now. They really don't. So, what are the kinds of things that we can do to find that balance again? Well, I can talk about a lot of things. Okay. But there is one shift that I want to focus on in today's lesson. And it's something that I've seen over and over in myself and in the work, in the women that I work with. When you're a high achiever, the pressure really never turns off. You show up, you handle things, even when you're tired. And that's where the balance starts to break down when you stop checking in with how you're actually feeling and just keep performing out of habit. This is a very key concept that I want you, my sisters out there, women in your 50s, 60s, 70s, I want you to really grasp because you've been so used to the hustle, the performing, and you want to get to more peace or harmony, but it's difficult sometimes to make that shift even when you recognize that you need to make the shift. Okay. So here's the one move that I want to offer you today. So, um, before you say yes to the next thing, I want you to pause and check your energy, not your calendar, not your title. Like this is what I should be doing, and not what people expect from you. I want you to check your energy and ask yourself a simple question. Do I really have the energy for this? Or am I just running on autopilot? Okay. Do I need to repeat that? Did y'all put that down? That's what I want you to ask yourself. And I want you to try it out today, definitely by tomorrow. Okay. And so when somebody asks you something, I want you to remember what Dr. Geneva said. I want you to pause. And before you say yes, which is what you tend to do most of the time for anybody and anything, I want you to pause and ask yourself, do I really have the energy for this? And um, that one pause, that's really the beginning of real balance in midlife. Because when you lead with your energy, that is the energy that you have, your capacity, where you are, you're thinking about your energy, instead of ignoring it, you're making choices that support you, not just sustain your image or that role that everybody else expects. Now, let me tell you, this doesn't mean that you're giving up on your goals. Not at all. Not at all. This is not an either or situation. Okay. It's a both and. And again, conceptually, we've got to, as women in midlife, it's that mindset. I'm always trying to get that mindset and teach about the concepts. This means that pause, that thinking about energy means you stop. What you're really doing is you're stopping the drain of yourself. You're stop draining yourself to prove something. In many cases, you've already proven. You understand what I'm talking about here? I want to make sure that we've got clarity on this point because it's so very important. By the time you in midlife, you've done so many things. You've done the things. You've got the wisdom. You've lived experience. You doing all that. You've done all the things. So you got a lot in your toolbox already. And so the need to prove or explain or show lessons. Okay. And at least it should be. And if not, that's where I want you to start from. Okay. Because you've already Y'all with me on this one? You're already made such incredible progress. You've got all these resources and assets inside. You've done all the things. Okay. So the time for proving, explaining, showing, it be gone. You don't have to do that all the time because you reached, you've been there. You are there. So that means you have the time to be intentional about you. Okay. And that's the shift. And so this is an important mindset concept to get. That's the shift. Not doing everything, not managing it all better, just learning to notice what you need before you give away more of yourself. Okay. And so the next steps in, um, moving forward on something like this is to, again, be sure that you are focused on what's important, that you, in fact, are taking these pauses. I'm just trying to, okay, you all still with me? I didn't know if we had some tech problems. Okay. These are your next steps. So you want to reflect and think about which lane needs attention. So I've given you 3 lanes. You don't have to think about all the things I'm doing, all the places I need to. There was a time when I used to teach, there's these 5, 7, 8 areas of your life and focus, and I still do, but over the years I've gotten it down to, listen, simplicity. Let's just deal with these 3 lanes, and we could probably put everything we doing in these 3 lanes. And so deal with those 3 buckets and think about what needs attention. Protect your boundaries. It's always, that's one of the things that energy consideration, managing your energy does. It helps you protect your boundaries. So often I'm asked that question about, well, Dr. Geneva, how do we how do we set those boundaries? How do we establish them? And there's lots of strategies and techniques, but one of the ones that I talk about is, well, if you protect your energy, learn how to manage energy, um, then you will automatically be protecting your boundaries. And this realignment is this concept, again, different in midlife than it was in our 20s or 30s, because we weren't talking about, what to align, what to line up and adjust and match our current priorities. We was trying to do everything we could to make it, to figure it out. But for the most part, you got a lot of life figured out. Not all of it, but you got a lot figured out. And so you really can, if with intention, you sit down and think about um, your commitments and what's important to you, what brings you joy, where do you want to put your energy. You can do aligning. That is, and that in midlife, that should become your technique. That should be your strategy, what you do. And then again, I want you to remember that when you're going about your life, um, and you're 55, or 56, or you're 62, that going about your life is being intentional, not the obligation, meaning I'm doing this because I want to, because it brings joy, because I'm going to have impact, because it creates a legacy for me, not because I got to do it. Somebody making me do it. Society says I got to do it. And listen, this doesn't all happen all at once. You got to work at it. You practice it, but you can take a little bit at a time. Like that question that I want you to ask yourself today when someone asks you to do something. Before you say yes, you're going to what? You're going to ask yourself, do I really have the energy for this? Okay. So, what question? That's the lesson that I wanted to teach today, and want to see what comments do we have. And so good again to see and hear everyone from everyone. Hey, Kagan, how you doing? Good to see you. Yes, good. Hey, James. Good morning. Dr. Trin, how you doing? Good to see you. Glad you're here from Dallas, as always. Thank you, James. Thank you. This has been Dr. Pierre. Love, love, love. So let me see what questions we have. Well, Dr. Trin leaves us a comment about, yeah, the question. That's right. And that's what I want you to do, Dr. Trin. And all the, Dr. Trin works with a lot of leaders and women as well. And we've done some things together. You can go on YouTube and check out the videos we've done. And yes, as you do your leadership thing, asking that question, do I really have the energy for this? Okay. Um, and okay, so Elaine, you're wondering about balance look like in retirement when the structure of the work is gone, but the demands haven't disappeared. Oh my goodness, that is a phenomenal, fantastic question. Because see, we think and again, it's very natural and normal. You are not alone in this question. We are so used to the work and the job giving us the structure in life. It's what we're to be, our purpose. And one of the things that we need to do, Elaine, is to shift that mindset. And it starts with purpose, I believe, and really thinking about, well, what is it I want to do now? I have so many opportunities, so many possibilities. What do I want to do now? Um, and that's what, and being in retirement, you can really be out of balance um, because you may not know what to do and may not be doing the things that really give you joy. So that mindset, shifting that mindset that I do have purpose, that work gave me a structure and purpose. I've got purpose now. What do I want to do with my life? So reflecting on that and that mindset. Um, Secondly, making sure that you um, are finding and doing those things that are bringing you joy. And once you find out what that purpose is and what you want to do next, and you can do so many different things, that you take some steps to do that. And then one of the things I've been talking a lot about with the women I work with is this whole aspect of connection, that particularly as we get into midlife, as we're aging, as we're reaching 58, 65, as we're moving through this fabulous stage of life, is that we need to make sure that we're connecting, that we're moving away from being isolated, and we're being very intentional about being connected, whether it's in a church, whether it's a hobby that you do with other people, you're volunteering, you're going out to eat, you're inviting friends over, you're playing cards, whatever it is, that connection. And let me tell you, folks, as we age, that connection becomes so very important. So thanks very much for that. We're winding now. I see we've got several other questions. Well, here's one. Let's take this one. What if I'm already feeling burnt out? Is it too late to make a shift? Well, let me say one thing uh, very clearly. Well, I got a couple things to say, but the first thing about burnout, and if you feeling burnout, trust that didn't happen all at once. It isn't that you woke up and say, "Oh, I feel burned out." Um, that burnout is a slow occurrence. So you didn't wake up and because of what happened yesterday, you're now burnt out. Do you understand? So it's very important again to understand that concept about burnout. It comes from a series of things we've neglected to do for ourselves. Okay? That's the reality, whether it's we haven't been getting enough sleep, we haven't been drinking enough water. We haven't been moving our body. We've allowed stress to come in too frequently, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first thing I want you to understand. And with that, the second thing is it ain't never too late to deal with burnout. If nothing else, because you got to, if you want to stay around with us. And we all want to be around, you know. We want to live long lives. And I know I want to live my life vibrantly. And I'm sure you do too. So it's not too late because you have got to get out of that burnout state. You've got to move from, that burnout to that joy, from that hustle to that harmony. You got to make that move. So, secondly, it's no, it's not too late. In fact, start today. And then my third piece of advice in that starting today would be to use what we talked about. Ask yourself, check out your energy level and what you can do about that. And again, it's more than that massage. It's not taking care of ourselves should not be a reward or a luxury. Oh, I did this or I did that, or oh, I feel exhausted. Let me go get a massage or let me, take a break. No, especially for us in midlife, we have to integrate self care into our day to day activities. It's got to be like self care and taking care of ourselves, got to be like brushing your teeth. You wouldn't go anywhere, do anything without brushing your teeth. You get up in the morning, what do? You brush your teeth, right? You need to get up in the morning. What do? You take care of yourself. You do something. That's self care. Do you understand? I need you to understand that. And that's the difference in terms of how we have got to deal with um, our energy, work life balance, self care in midlife. It's different, y'all. And there really isn't a playbook for this. That's why I'm just so passionate about coming on every week to be here to talk about these things. We don't really have a playbook for this. So, but you understand the difference that I'm talking about? In your 20s or your 30s, you could, hey, let me go get a massage. It's a reward, it's a luxury. Hey, hey, hey. In midlife, you got to wake up with, just like I'm brushing my teeth, what am I going to do today to take care of myself, to find joy, to manage my energy? Get the difference, get the shift. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're probably, let me say, folks, I mean, I just so much, I put my glasses because, oh, okay. So we've got this chapter 40 on IG. I'm going to take this question from IG. I love y'all, IG. Um, a lot of us are not just burned out with work, but burned out with adult children. Okay. I'm Gen X. We never put the burdens of children today, what we did uh, with our parents, uh, thanks to social media. Okay. Let me just tell you, chapter 40, I feel you. Okay. One of the greatest days of my life was when my children, who I love dearly, okay, my children, when they went out on their own, did their thing, and are no longer in my pocketbook. So that's the stage I'm at now. But I've been where you are. And I think any of us who raise those wonderful creatures bring human beings into the world. That in itself is a blessing. Now, some days it'd be hard to think about that blessing or deal with it as a blessing. But here's what I want to say to you, chapter 40. Everything we've been talking about, it, I'm just going to ask you to watch the replay because it may be the children, but it ain't about the children. We ain't talking about the children today. We're talking about you and what you do to take care of yourself, what you do to find your energy. Do you understand? And you know, the work, the children, the partners, the spouses, all of that is other people or other things. My conversation today is about you. And so I'm starting with, yes, sometimes the work and what happens and what our children do and all that. So much of that is out of our control. Today's conversation is about what you can control. So I hope you take that with you with all the love um, and experience and wisdom that I have that's meant for you. Okay, y'all, next week I'm on vacation. So I'm not going to see you next Wednesday at 9 o'clock. I think Karina will probably have us put up one of a great replays. We'll do that. But then 2 weeks from today, I'll be back with you and I will see you then. But I'm on vacation. I want you to know, let me just put a little PS. Every day for me, I want you to know is a vacation. Okay, every day. I find some kind of way to bring the joy into life. Thank you. Thank you, Clue Girl. I will. Um, but what's going to happen next week is I'm going to be very intentional going out of town, you know, the whole bit. So love you all. See you then. And listen, don't forget. Okay, thank you, Elaine. Love you too. Love you back. Don't forget, if you're not a member of my email community, you should be. Please, we on a daily basis, um, we're dropping gems, talking things. I put out these mini lessons, uh, etc. You can sign right on up. Or don't forget that Reinvention After 50, the strategic action plan. That's a free guide for you. I have gotten such incredible feedback from it, and I'm going to do more. See y'all.